But
What?
there are people who I've uncovered
Hmm.
who are purported mystics who are fake.
Yeah,
One of them I talked about on Mysterious World. He's a Canadian priest named Father Michel Rodrigue,
I was right
and
about to ask you. Yep.
yeah, he he has terrified a lot of people
Hmm.
with prophecies of imminent end of the world, and there's going to be a spiritual disaster that kind of parallels the 3 days of darkness idea, where he refers to it as the time of refuges. And the idea is there's going to be this intense persecution and spiritual disaster. And if you want to survive as one of God's people, you're going to have to go to a place that is specially blessed, where the forces of darkness and can't get at you. And this is, he calls these places refuges. And he even has a special prayer for consecrating your apartment or your farm or whatever as a refuge. And all kinds of miracles are going to attend you during the time of refuges. But it's kind of like, in the 3 days of darkness quotation that I
Hmm.
read, you look outside, you're going to die. Well, something similar applies in the time of refuges. Now, I did an investigation with the help of some assistants because he had a lot of material.
Hmm.
And we went through the material looking for certain kinds of things. And he he made a bunch of claims that turned out to be false.
Such
For
as.
one, well, for one thing, his life story is just not believable.
Mm-hmm.
He has this dramatic story of his home being exorcised uh, by when he was a child,
Hmm.
and because the devil was trying to get him personally as a little kid, and so the devil's infesting their home, and a priest comes to exorcise it and runs away yelping because he's too scared of the demon. And then the bishop comes
Hmm.
to exorcise the house. And the bishop runs away yelping because he's too scared of the demon. And then his mom decides we need to burn our house down
Hmm.
to get and move somewhere else. So he, because the phenomena centers on him, he gets his mom's permission to burn the house down. So they get incendiary material, they put it in the house, and his mom lets him light it. And so he goes into the house, he lights the incendiary material, and he hears this roaring sound of the
Mm.
devil trying to get him. And he runs out the front door, and hands of fire reach after him. But his mom drops to her knees and prays to the Lord, and the hands recede. And
Yeah.
it's like, this is something out of a movie. This is
Yeah.
not credible. But the he also reports resurrecting a woman from the dead
Hmm.
at, if memory serves, it was Christmas Eve Mass in Montreal. And he says he was in Montreal and he's celebrating the Mass at this particular parish. It was St. Michael's, if I recall correctly, at Cathedral. And this woman drops dead, and these doctors are ministering to her, and she's just gone, she's dead. And the doctors go up to the priest. They apparently stop the mass. The doctors go up to the priest and say, she's dead, father, she's dead. And Father Rodrigue says, no, this cannot be. And he goes up to her and he puts her hands on his hands on her chest, and he says, hey, she was dead. And commands her to live, and she leaps to her feet and is hopping up and down saying, oh, I never felt so well, I feel so well, thank you, father, blah 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 blah. And it's just to be sure, though, that she's okay. He says they need to take her to the hospital, so
Hmm.
someone calls an ambulance, they take her to the hospital, and check her out. And then as he's finished, he resumes the mass once she's been picked up by the ambulance. And he resumes the mass. And at the end of the mass, this door that at the cathedral that has not been opened in 70 years opens by itself. And the woman comes in back from the hospital. She's all checked out. She's just fine. And the crowd who saw her die and raised from the dead applauds.
Mm.
Now, this is not credible for multiple reasons. Among them are, if you have a heart attack and you are revived and you go to the hospital to check you out, there's no way you get back before the end of Mass.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do tests on you that are going to take hours.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to watch you overnight for observation. They're going to do all kinds of things. They're not going to send you right back out. Furthermore, this allegedly happened, if I recall correctly, in 2008. So where are all the pictures on Facebook of this happening?
Sure.
You know, where are the social media mentions? Where is it in the local Catholic newspaper? This is another fabulous story that appears to just be a fable. He also recounts a story of he was dining at a restaurant in Alberta in Western Canada, and he began to get ill. And so he went to a hospital across from the restaurant, and a Russian doctor there checked him out and realized he was infected with a Russian bioweapon that the doctor himself had developed in Russia and then destroyed before he immigrated to Canada. And the doctor pumped him full of antibiotics and sent him on his way and told him to get checked out when he completed his road trip back to where he lives in Montreal. If you have been infected by a Russian bioweapon, that has affected a local restaurant, so restaurant patrons are coming down with this, that's going to be an instant major health emergency that is going to be investigated by the Canadian authorities. It's going to get law enforcement involved. It's going to get the Canadian equivalent of the CDC involved. It's going to get the military and intelligence agencies involved. How a Russian bioweapon got released in Heartland, Canada at a restaurant is going to be a big deal. There are no records of this happening. And if someone has been infected by a Russian bioweapon, you don't just give them a few antibiotics and send them on their way. They're going to need to be interviewed by government agencies, and because the government's going to want to investigate this. You don't let patient zero escape into the wild and go about his business. So these stories, among others, are just not credible. And both of Father Rodrigue's bishops, because he's incarnated in one diocese but lives in another. He had publicity materials out that said he runs all of his prophecies by his bishops, to generate credence for them. Well, his bishops both said no. He doesn't run his prophecies past me, and furthermore, they rejected his prophecies and both issued letters repudiating Father Rodrigue. Now, you may say, well, okay, this stuff isn't really credible, but how do we know falsehood? I mean, even if maybe the Canadian government covered up the bioweapon release. How do you know something is absolutely false here? Well, one of the things that among his dramatic prophecies, Father Rodrigue said that within a few months of when I did my show, there was going to be this illumination of conscience event where planes would stop in the sky for 15 minutes and everyone would have an examination of conscience. Well, that didn't happen. It didn't happen within a few months. He said a date it was going to happen within the year. It didn't. Then he also prophesied that in this persecution against the church, Pope Francis was going to be martyred. And Pope Benedict, in retirement, would then call an ecumenical council. And then Pope Benedict would try to flee, but would be caught by the agents of the beast, and he would be martyred. Okay. Well, none of that's happened, but Pope Benedict is no longer alive. He died last year, so there's no way. He also, by the way, doesn't have authority as a retired, former pope. He can't call an ecumenical council. But he dead. And so he did not get martyred. Pope Francis did not get martyred first. This was all inaccurate. And so it was just plainly inaccurate.
No Vatican III, to my knowledge. That hasn't happened. I'm curious, before we get back to the 3 days of darkness, since we're talking about Father here, what's your assessment? I mean, is this guy a charlatan? Is he a liar? Is he just insane? What's going on here? Is it demonic?
I wondered about him. Unfortunately, I'm not telepathic, at least not enough to read his heart. And so I can't say with confidence. what I can say is his claims both about his life story and his prophecies are not credible. And that could be due to conscious lying. He could be a compulsive liar, someone who is doing this for fun or for profit, and he has tied donations to his revelations, so there is a profit motive here because he has a monastery he's trying to build. And so it could be conscious lying. It could be mental illness. He could be a very sincere guy who believes all this, and he's just deluded. It's harder for me to attribute this to innocent imagination because of his life story claims. If it was just prophecies that were problematic, I could say, okay, he maybe imagined he got this prophecy. But you don't imagine the dramatic burning down of your house event from when you were a child, or your infection with the Russian bioweapon, or you're raising someone from the dead at Mass as an adult. Those are memories that you just don't innocently imagine those things. If you really believe them, there is something seriously wrong with you.
Is he
if they didn't happen?
Is he serving at a parish anywhere?
He's no longer serving it at least as of the information I have. He was no longer serving it serving at a parish after his local bishop denounced him. Part of the deal was he's retiring from active service in the diocese, but he does still have a monastery.
Oh, so he still has some. What kind of role does he have there? He just built it, but is he active with it? But what's going on?
Yeah, he's got his own little order.
And the bishop has approved of this, or
I think the Vatican may have approved of the little order, but no action has been taken dissolving the order to this point, as far as I'm aware.
Got it. Let me.
You know how it works in church. Once you get permission for something, it rolls along until you get up the energy to specifically revoke it.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button. See you next time. God bless.
If you're looking to buy or sell a home, office, or any kind of property anywhere in the world, you're going to want to call Real Estate for Life, and they're going to connect you with a Catholic agent. Now, that agent will donate a portion of their commission upon sale, and Real Estate for Life will donate 75% of that gift to a pro-life organization at no cost to you. Call Real Estate for Life at 1-877-LIFE-US1 or text them 248-431-1440. If you care about the pro-life cause, call them now.